Well, the wait is over. Football is back, and we're back here on the Waiting All Day for Sunday Night podcast. I'm your host, Chase Johnson, alongside my other host in Alex Frank, my co-host, that is. We're so excited. We're ready to get back into football, man. I'm pumped up for this one. Alex, what about you, man?
Well, I got some friends to say how excited I am for this season, if you don't mind. Because you see, the road, the journey to Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara, California gets underway tomorrow night. Sunday Night Football on NBC's milestone 20th season. And on February 8th of 2026, I want the Bengals to be there in that city by the bay. But you know what? It's going to be a great season. There are so many teams, Chase, that can win Super Bowl 60, that can get to Super Bowl 60. I tell you, the parity in this league is incredible, to say the least.
I agree. You know, it's going to be a fun one. I'm excited to see what happens this season, who all is able to get there, who all is able to battle it out for a chance to go to San Francisco and play for the Lombardi Trophy. And I'm just excited for this weekend in general. This is going to be some fun football being played, on Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and Monday. 4 days worth of football. It happened last year. It's happening again this year. We got some great games that we're going to talk about. But before we get into the matchups, we want to talk about our playoff predictions. Get them right off the boat.
Ooh.
Alex, you got 90 seconds to give me the 14 teams who are making the playoffs throughout the National Football League in 2025. Who do you got in the AFC and NFC?
Okay. So in the AFC, nothing really changed after some news broke on Thursday. I've got the Bills into the number 1 seed, 14-3, winning the AFC East. The Bengals, 13-4, the number 2 seed, winning the AFC North. The Chiefs as the number 3 seed, 12-5, AFC West champions for a 10th straight season, which is incredible to think about. And then the Houston Texans, 12-5 as the number 4 seed. Now my 3 wild cards. This was a little tough, but not too difficult. The Broncos, the number 5 seed, at 12-5. The Ravens at number 6 at 11-6, and then the Patriots at 11-6 as the number 7 seed. Let's go to the NFC. Now, there was some news that broke last week, which kind of threw a wrench in my predictions, but I like mine now even better. Number 1 seed, the San Francisco 49ers, 14-3 NFC West champions. The number 2 seed, that goes to the Detroit Lions, 13-4 NFC North champions. 3 seed, Philadelphia Eagles, 12-5 NFC East champions. First repeat champion in that division since 2004, when ironically the Eagles did it then. 4 seed goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 11-6 NFC South champions. The number 5 seed, Chase, I'm buying in. The Green Bay Packers, 12-5. That trade moved the needle for me. 2 wins gets the Packers into the playoffs. My number 6 seed, they don't do a lot of sleeping in this city, but a lot of people nationally are sleeping on this team. But guess what, Chase? The Seattle Seahawks get back to the playoffs this year, 11-6. They get in the playoffs. And then the 7 seed, I'm keeping the Minnesota Vikings at 11-6 in the playoffs. You know I'm a J.J. McCarthy believer, and I'm a big believer in Kevin O'Connell and what they have on that team. So there's my 14 teams. Chase, I can't wait to hear yours.
Man, this is going to be a fun one, and I really like those picks, especially with the adjustment of the Micah Parsons trade to Green Bay. We're going to talk about more on that later on in the show with that big Lions-Packers 425 matchup on Sunday. My picks, I'm going to stick with this. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be the number 1 seed. I think they're coming back with a vengeance. It's going to be interesting to see how they go. Number 2, I got Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to bounce back. They're going to be well, and I think that they also have a vengeance to get back. I think all these teams have something to gun for. Everybody's looking for a vengeance. Everybody has a vengeance in this conference because nobody in the AFC won the Super Bowl last year. It was the Eagles. Number 3, I got the Buffalo Bills. 4, I've got the Houston Texans. And then down to the wild cards, we're looking at the number 5 seed Baltimore Ravens, followed by the number 6 seed Denver Broncos. And I'm going to take a page out of your book, Alex, with some stuff that's, kind of processed through my mind. I've dropped off the Miami Dolphins to pick up the New England Patriots as a number 7 seed. I'm intrigued to see what happens.
Must have watched NFL Game Day's preview last night with the dirty laundry, and then they shot the other team out of the cannon. So I like it.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by the New England Patriots now. They've been kind of growing on me, especially with those new rivalries uniforms. It's going to be fun to see another Sunday Night Football game. We'll talk about that at the start of October. But for the NFC, I've got the Eagles as the number 1 overall seed. I've got the Niners at the 2, the Lions at the 3, the Bucks at the 4. I'll go ahead and shuffle the Packers around a little bit. I got the Rams at 5, the Packers at 6. I think the Commanders will still make the playoffs, but I think they'll make it as the 7th seed. Last year, it looked like it was going to be Packers 6 and Commanders 7. Those two things flipped, and I think it's going to flip back to what it looked like going into the last week of the season. So I think that's what your playoff field's going to look like in the NFC. But, man, Alex, wow. We can really talk game preview about football that's being played coming up. This is actual stuff that is happening in the near future within the next 24 hours or so. I mean, this is some exciting stuff. And again, I would be remiss not to play this with the Cowboys and the Eagles coming up on NBC, the opening night theme. I mean, this is going to be huge, man.
Yeah, just let it go. We've been waiting all summer long, and Thursday night we are finally back to football. Opening night kickoff and the start of the 20th season of Sunday Night Football on NBC features one of the most passionate and intense rivalries in the NFL. Super Bowl 59 MVP Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles host America's team. Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark will have the call from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia at 8:20 Eastern on NBC. Coverage on NBC begins at 7 Eastern with an NFL kickoff special live in Philadelphia. Westwood One's coverage getting underway at 7:30 with Kevin Harlan and Ross Tucker on the call. I should add, Saquon Barkley is the reigning Offensive Player of the Year in the NFL. Did you see that every major award winner from last year, Chase, is going to be wearing a gold outlined shield on their jerseys, which it looks really cool. I'm excited to see Barkley wear it on Thursday and then Josh Allen wear it on Sunday night. We'll get to that coming up. But Chase, Cowboys, Eagles, we've talked about this. 17th time they're playing on Sunday Night Football on NBC. The Cowboys playing in their 66th SNF on NBC game. This will be the Eagles. Oh, I saw this earlier. This will be the Eagles' 49th appearance on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Dallas 35-30 all time. Philadelphia 25-23. Man, I tell you, they could have picked any game for this matchup. I think they got it right with this one, even after a seismic trade last week.
Yeah, NBC went with their bread and butter, the most consistent, the most frequent SNF matchup in their history since 2006, and that seismic trade. I mean, the Richter scale was definitely buzzing last week from Arlington, Texas, with Micah Parsons being traded to the Green Bay Packers. We'll talk about his impact on Green Bay, but let's talk about how big of a gaping hole, a glory hole, as Jerry Jones once mentioned in an interview not too long ago. Alex, man, I'm not confident about the Dallas Cowboys anymore. I think I had some confidence that they would be a football team that could really compete with others, especially with Micah Parsons on the other side of the football, trying to lead by example when it came to playing good football. But man, I don't know about that Cowboys defense anymore. Actually, I think I know. I don't trust them one bit. I mean, again, there's a lot of stuff that they have to figure out on that side, and you're going up against pretty much the Avengers tomorrow night in the Philadelphia Eagles. This is not a good look. Philly's favored by 8.5, and the over under 47.5. I think Philly, man, they're licking their chops right now, saying, man, we don't have to worry about any sort of pass rush from Micah Parsons or any of the guys from the Cowboys. I'm not saying any of them, but you certainly take a guy away that's a double-digit sack master over the first 4 years of his career. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, and Nick Sirianni, they're probably like, you know what? We can do whatever the heck we wanted because guess what? We were going to regardless.
Here's what's going to happen tomorrow night. I want the first play to be Saquon Barkley gets the ball on the left side and then does a jump cut back to the right side because the left guard's going to pull and block whoever's right there. And then Saquon Barkley takes it 75 yards to the house. Actually, it wouldn't be 75. It would be 65 yards because now touchbacks come out to the 35-yard line. So that's what the first play is going to be. At least I hope it is.
Call the shot.
Who's stopping Saquon Barkley tomorrow night?
Nobody. Himself. Himself's the only person that I could see.
Oh, himself?
But he's not doing that.
No, he's not doing that. Because last year on Sunday Night Football on NBC, he had over 100-plus rushing yards in each of the 3 SNF on NBC games he played. Not to mention 2 of them, he had 200-plus yards. So I wasn't confident in the Cowboys before this trade. Now it's like, oh, okay, Philadelphia. Look, will this game be close early? Maybe. But come the second half and fourth quarter, the Eagles, they're built to wear down their opponents. The Chiefs found that out in Super Bowl 59. The Cowboys are going to find that out tomorrow night. Oh, by the way, do you know what the combined score of the two games between these two teams was last year?
Let me hear it.
75-13.
You know, when a team has, injuries and then they bring back their talent the next year, usually that's not the case. Dallas lost their talent on the defensive side. I think it could be similar to what last year was.
Hey, they extended Deron Bland. There is that.
There's your silver lining on a cake that's not really large or really well put. I don't know, man. A baker's dozen. I mean, that's how many touchdowns the Eagles could put up tomorrow.
Well, last year the Eagles had 7 touchdowns rushing in the NFC Championship game. The Cowboys had 6 rushing touchdowns all season. So if that stat doesn't tell you how this game's going to go tomorrow night, I don't know what is.
Yeah, the Eagle stars are going to feast tomorrow, and the guys that they might not even need to rely upon, I think they're going to have big nights as well. Am I just calling in the ship saying that Dallas is going to get murdered by 30 points? I'm not saying that, but could it happen? Yeah, it could happen because it happened last year twice, and I think that it could definitely happen again this year because Philadelphia, I believe, is going to be a better football team. I mean, it's hard to top, obviously, making a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl and stuff like that. But guess what? Sometimes you got to run it back, and Philadelphia's got the team to do it.
Even if the Cowboys, and the one thing that I'm going to be watching for tomorrow night offensively is what kind of impact George Pickens has on their passing game. Because I think having him opposite CeeDee Lamb is going to be a huge advantage for them. But it doesn't matter if they score 30 points because the Eagles are going to score whenever they want to tomorrow night. Okay, if the whole point of trading Micah Parsons is, well, we weren't good against the run, this will help us get draft picks to ensure that we can better defend the run. We got Kenny Clark, whatever that's going to do. Okay. But if you do stop the run and get to 3rd and 8, what do you want to have on 3rd and 8?
You want your horse. You want your horse to rush the passer.
You want your pass rusher to tee off.
Yeah.
Who's that on this team now?
Question mark.
Now, I will say this. The Eagles had some changes this offseason on the defensive side. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay are all no longer with the team. But let me tell you something. Vic Fangio is. And Vic Fangio is a defensive mastermind.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
And I just got to say this. I think the way that Dallas finds himself in this one is if Philly shoots themselves in the foot on offense, and if Dak, CD, George Pickens, if they can find the mole defensively. I think that's about the only way that the Cowboys can stay in this one, because other than that, I mean, I see the Eagles winning 99 times out of 100 in this one.
The problem is, too, like, the Eagles have a really good secondary. Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship. They have guys that are getting better at that position. Kenyon Mitchell, who was a rookie last year. And then you look at their linebacking core. I know Nakobe Dean is out for tomorrow night, but they still have Zach Bond. They still have Nolan Smith. I look at this Eagles team defensively. Jalen Carter's still up front. Jordan Davis is still up front. If he can be who Milton Williams was last year, which was setting up Jalen Carter to get to the quarterback, this Eagles defense is going to be fine. But at the end of the day, the Eagles are winning this game because they have, or I believe are going to win this game, because I'm not trying to spoil anything, because they have the better trench play, and quite frankly, they have the better team and the more talented team.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much, you look at it, you see what's going on, you see what recently has happened, and you don't have to think too much on this one. Again, not trying to foreshadow picks, but we'll get to that later on. But I think you know who we're picking with. But the next game that we're going to talk about, wow.
If you want to re-cue the music if you can, because we have a doozy of a matchup. I mean, the 20th season of Sunday Night Football on NBC premiered this Sunday night. You want to talk about a heavyweight matchup of the last two NFL MVPs. 2023 MVP Lamar Jackson leads the reigning two-time AFC North champion Baltimore Ravens in Western New York to battle 2024 and reigning NFL MVP Josh Allen and the reigning 5-time AFC East champion Buffalo Bills. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark will have the call from Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York at 8:20 Eastern on NBC. Coverage on NBC begins at 7 Eastern with Football Night in America, served by Applebee's. Westwood One's coverage gets underway at 7:30 with Ryan Radke, Mike Golick, and Scott Graham. Oh my goodness, what a matchup this is going to be. I mean, you couldn't have asked for anything better with the Ravens and the Bills. By the way, did you know, Chase, that the Buffalo Bills at 786 have the highest winning percentage in SNF on NBC history?
It's pretty wild. I mean, I think I remember seeing that win percentage up there in the 800s before they took on the Bengals week 9 of 2023, and the Bengals kind of dubbed that down a little bit, but that's pretty insane to think about. I mean, the Bills have not been a team that has been on SNF at least before 2019, and ever since then, they've been a pretty main staple in that regard, and they get to kick off the 20th season of SNF at their home in their last season at New Era Field. So, you know, I'm excited for this one, man. The last two MVPs battling. I mean, you saw what it was. You know, you saw what it was in the playoff game. You know, Lamar got the better of Josh Allen last year on SNF in week 4. But, I mean, talk about fireworks out of the gate.
Right out of the gate, Bills wearing their all blue uniforms. Final, as you mentioned, the home opener and the final season at Highmark Stadium. That crowd is going to – I don't even want to know what that crowd's going to be like. Like, you're going to have – okay, it's going to be warm. I mean, Bills Mafia will have been drinking all day in the parking lots. I mean, they're just going to be ready to explode. This is their first time seeing the Bills in a regular season game since Josh Allen has been named MVP. Ironically, the last time they played a home game was against the Ravens in the playoffs in the divisional round. But this matchup is more than just Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. Okay, there is talent all over this field. The Ravens, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. Isaiah will likely not play on Sunday night due to an injury he sustained in training camp. But you also have Rashad Bateman. And then you go to defense, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith. I mean, just Nnamdi Madubuike. There are guys on all three levels for the Ravens defense. And then the Buffalo Bills, James Cook, who led the NFL in touchdowns last year, rushing touchdowns with 16. And then you go to the tight ends, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. And then defensively, Matt Milano. And you think about Damar Hamlin, who suddenly has become one of the Bills' best defensive players. This matchup has so much talent on both sides. I mean, it's going to be just guys flying around. And you have the feeling that whoever has the ball last is going to win the game.
That could not have been said any better. I think that's literally what's going to happen. Whoever has the ball last is going to win this game. You've got, you know, Lamar Jackson and how, you know, efficient he is and, you know, magical that Lamar can pull anything out of a hat and make it, they'll turn a rabbit. You know, I don't know. Any type of the magic hocus pocus type stuff, Lamar Jackson is really good at doing that. But again, I mean, the dude had 41 touchdown passes to 4 interceptions last year. I mean, he was unbelievable. Obviously in that playoff game, there were some plays of his that he would definitely like to have back, but not to mention he was able to get them back into that game and give them a chance to tie it and even go on to the AFC Championship. So, you know, with Lamar Jackson, the amount of talent that the Ravens were able to go after in free agency and the amount of talent they're able to retain, this is a very talented Baltimore team that you could have mentioned over the last couple of years, you know, could have won the Super Bowl. But if anything, I mean, they got to have all the confidence in the world in the DMV that the Ravens can make it to the Super Bowl and finally win one, you know, with Lamar Jackson under center. So this is going to be big for them. But then, you know, on the flip side for Buffalo, they're in the same boat as well. These are two quarterbacks that they're like, man, they've got the MVP. Lamar has MVPs, but the Super Bowl is the big thing that's eluding them. Who's able to get out of each other's way and then get through to Patrick Mahomes or whoever's at that finish line in the AFC? And it's been Patrick Mahomes over, you know, the last 7 seasons. But, I mean, Josh Allen as well. I think the use of the tight end is going to be big. Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, James Cook out of the backfield. Joe Brady's still calling the plays. But Khalil Shakir, I'm intrigued to see the impact that he has because – you know, you see him in the slot. Josh Allen relies on him a lot. Yards after catch from Shakir is a big thing. And then they signed Gabe Davis not too long ago. Big game Gabe. And obviously his stint down in Jacksonville wasn't the greatest. Nothing really happened at that rate. But sometimes when you get back into familiar territory, I'm not saying that he may do anything on Sunday night. I don't know what that's going to look like because of how quick of a turnaround it is. But Gabe Davis is still pretty familiar with the system. And later on down the season, you could see him have a pretty big impact on this team, once we get to November, December. But in terms of Sunday night, wow. I mean, I can't stop drooling over this matchup, man.
Well, I mean, we've been waiting all day for Sunday night since May 5th or May 14th. May 14th when the NFL schedule was released. And this matchup, Sunday Night Football, I mean, this is you could have put this matchup anywhere. I think in my mock schedule, I had it as the 425 CBS game in week 1, which I think would have been just as good. But you put it on Sunday Night Football. I mean, I was listening to Bill's Squad on the Lockdown Podcast Network, and Joe Marino was talking, the host of Lockdown Bills, was talking about how, I mean, this is Sunday Night Football. Carrie Underwood's going to be performing before the game in her new Sunday Night Football Open. I mean, this is major. I mean, This is going to have the feel of a playoff game. And I think also what has to be considered is the Ravens have come so close the last 2 seasons. And I've heard people say this week that what they do in the regular season essentially doesn't matter because it's all about what they do in the postseason. 2 things. One, yes, that is a narrative that has legitimacy to it. However, the Ravens are playing a first place schedule for a second straight season. No team in the AFC North has won the division 3 years in a row. And you look at the Ravens. If they lose this game, yes, they play Cleveland week 2 at home and they'll probably win that game. You're staring down Detroit and Kansas City your next 2 games after that. Then you face Houston and the Rams in your next 2 games before a week 7 bye. I'm telling you right now, if they don't beat the Bills and they don't beat the Chiefs and they're 2-2 after week 4, it's not going to feel great because they still can't beat the Bills and the Chiefs. And that's why I struggle to buy into everybody saying the Ravens are the Super Bowl favorites. Not everybody saying it, but a lot of people are saying it. Because I haven't seen them beat the elite teams consistently. They do it in week 4 playing at home when the Bills are on a short week. That's one thing. But do they do it in Buffalo in week 1 where they've had this game and been preparing for this game for over 100 days? That's where I'm getting at with this matchup.
Yeah. I mean, can you take down those teams on the road and give the rest of the league something to look at and say, well, it looks like they improved something out of the gate, and now all systems are go from Baltimore. This game is obviously huge, but I think on the mental aspect for Baltimore, it's a lot bigger than what people truly think it is. And like you mentioned earlier, I mean, the Ravens, this is their first game since playing in Orchard Park, and this is the Bills' first game at home since that Ravens game in the playoffs. So it's familiar foes, familiar territory at night, Sunday Night Football under the lights. One of these great quarterbacks is going to finish this game 0-1. And how are they going to bounce back? That's going to be your big question.
It is. It is. I mean, both teams play divisional opponents in week 2. The Ravens at home to the Browns, the Bills at home are on the road to the Jets. But still, this is the game that matters. Roquan Smith said it best back in May. That first game is what he had circled because it sets the tone for the whole season. And just like it did last year, the Ravens were, you can tell me how talented they were, that how their roster was the best in the NFL. When the chips were down, they lost to Kansas City and Philadelphia, the 2 teams who played in the Super Bowl. Philadelphia, by the way, they played at home. So this is a prove-it game for the Ravens. The Bills, they quite frankly don't have any pressure on them. They're playing at home. That crowd's going to be behind them. That's why I think there is so much pressure riding on the Ravens in this game. And for all the talk of Lamar Jackson with the look in his eye, chip on his shoulder, I think Josh Allen has just as big of a chip on his shoulder. He's out to prove that he deserved that MVP last year. So everybody can say Lamar Jackson was robbed. No, he wasn't. Josh Allen won the MVP. He did more with less than Lamar Jackson did with more. And we'll find out if that narrative was true on Sunday night at about 11:30, if you will.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a guy that's proven haters time and time again, and that's Patrick Mahomes.
Well, funny you mentioned that because Friday night, the NFL returns to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and this season, fans in Brazil will get to see an AFC West showdown featuring Patrick Mahomes and the three-time reigning AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs as they battle Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers going into the season with Jim Harbaugh as head coach in his second season. Rich Eisen, Kurt Warner, and Stacey Dales will have the call from Arena Corinthians in Sao Paulo, Brazil on YouTube and YouTube TV at 8 Eastern. Coverage on YouTube and YouTube TV begins at 7 Eastern with the YouTube NFL Sao Paulo pregame show. Ooh, that's going to be a good one on Friday night. Kansas City and the Chargers. These two teams played on Sunday Night Football on NBC last year. It was a game that went right down to the wire, a doink for the division chase. If you, the amount of doinks that won division titles and playoff games last year was, I think, more than you could have drawn up.
Yeah, I mean, it's the numbers keep counting up and you keep crossing off the tallies. Chris Collinsworth and the Doinks, man, I don't know what's going on with that. But, yeah, this game, I think we had a conversation about this on our AFC West preview show. Who's this bigger for? Who is in more dire constraints to win this opening game, whether with the schedules and everything else. And I said the Chiefs, and I'm going to stick with that.
By the way, Ryan Radke and Chiefs kickoff return legend Dante Hall will be on the Westwood One call beginning, I believe it's 7:15, I want to say, for that game since it's an 8 o'clock kickoff. But you're absolutely right, Chase. The fact that if the Chiefs, because the last time we saw them, they just were embarrassed by the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 59. And here you have the Chargers, who once again were the darlings of the offseason based off what they did in Jim Harbaugh's first season as their head coach last year, and rightfully so. But they come into the season. I don't remember if the last time, if when we talked about that was before or after Rashawn Slater went down with a season-ending injury in practice, which is obviously very concerning. Yes, Joe Alt is great, but there's something about the Chargers once again. I just have a bad feeling that it can go way downhill. I don't want to say way quickly, but gradually it can. Because I don't think this team without Rashawn Slater can play the way they want to play. And I also worry that with Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, and don't get me wrong, they're two really good head coaches and offensive coordinators. But are they running the ball too much? Are they taking the ball out of Herbert's hands? Because when we saw Herbert in the playoffs and he had to throw the ball a few more times than he would have liked to have thrown it, he threw it to the wrong team.
Yeah, I mean, in Justin Herbert, again, he had great numbers, great stats last year. He played excellent, but like you mentioned, when they played in that playoff game, they really had to rely upon him to throw the football when they could not get the run game going against the fast Texans defense. It was, pass, and the receivers for the Chargers weren't necessarily the greatest on the planet. And now that you're talking about, Rashawn Slater not being there for the entire season, it takes a chunk out of their game plan to try to run the football a bit more efficiently and comfortably with a guy like Amari Hampton or Najee Harris, who's, expected to play in this game. So, it does take a bit of a chunk out of their offense to call some stuff and some confidence that they can run behind a guy like Rashawn Slater. But, with the Chargers, they also play, 3 straight divisional games to start off the season. So
I can't remember the last time that happened.
I can't either. I mean, heck, we've been pretty angry about playing back-to-back divisional opponents start the season off, but 3 in a row is borderline insane. I'm that guy that I think that divisional games should not happen until October. That's just me. Okay. We could obviously have different stances on that one. There's a lot of people that say yes, no, but I truly don't think the NFL should have divisional games until the month of October. That's on me. But I will say, I think the Chargers, I think they're confident because they've seen themselves play the Chiefs down to the wire so many times. But the thing that makes them not able to get over the hump is just a mistake here or there, or the Chiefs just being able to slip by the Chargers' fingers, like Mahomes using his legs sometimes, Andy Reid able to have late game coaching and everything else. And some of these players, especially on the defensive side, now you're talking about Rashawn Slater, out for the season. I know I've mentioned him a few times in the spiel, but you've still got Chris Jones. There's George Karlaftis. You got guys that are able to blitz. I mean, this Chiefs pass rush and defense led by Spags, this is no joke. So it's going to be intriguing to see how Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, Justin Herbert, all those guys are able to really adjust to what the Chiefs have on that, very consistent defense of theirs, and where can they attack to try to find some of these openings, down the field. So I mean, it's going to be something to see for the Chargers.
I'll give you another name for you that I think is going to be a breakout player for the Chiefs this season. Ashton Gelati. Out of Louisville, their edge rusher they drafted. I think he was a third-round pick. But adding another edge rusher that can rush the quarterback opposite George Karlaftis, and then you still have Chris Jones in the middle who can play edge rusher too. He can line up anywhere and wreck the game. That's how good he is. But I think what's interesting is the trenches are going to play such a big role in this game because the Chiefs, they sort of retool their offensive line. Yes, Joe Thuney went to Chicago, but you add Josh Simmons in the draft with a 32nd pick from Ohio State. You still have Creed Humphrey, who's a tremendous center. You still have Trey Smith. Yes, Jawan Taylor may be your liability, but he's still solid and serviceable. And then the Chargers, who they don't have is Joey Bosa. And I think we could be seeing that void, similar to Micah Parsons Thursday night against Philadelphia, come into play. But nonetheless, this is going to be a fun matchup. I really am also interested to see if the Chiefs can add that downfield element to their passing game that we saw for the first 5 seasons of Patrick Mahomes' career. Because if they can, I don't know how you're going to stop this offense. Because they can run the ball with Isaiah Pacheco, who's going to be healthy, hopefully, for all of this season for the Chiefs. And then you add in the fact that you have Xavier Worthy. You're not going to have Rashee Rice, but you do have other guys that can fly down the field. And I think what's also interesting is, what does Travis Kelce do? This is his first game since a major life event for him. If you know, you know. So this is a fun one. This is going to be a really fun game. A divisional matchup in Brazil. I mean, we have 3 divisional matchups in primetime this week. And I love it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 8 divisional games. 7 are road favorites, not division games, but there's 7 road favorites, and I'll talk about more of that when we get to our picks. But, funny enough, you mentioned Trey Smith. I actually, when I was in Kansas City this past week at Arrowhead Stadium, Trey Smith and Wanya Morris walked by and, dapped them up, nothing too crazy. But, I mean, look, I'm 6'4", 225 pounds. And I look up at them, I'm like, man, I feel kind of small. Like, when I see those guys and they're protecting for Patrick Mahomes, and if they can, be those guys up front that can protect Mahomes on a 3-step drop, on a play action pass with a 7-step drop, with some of those guys that are flying down the field like Xavier Worthy and other receivers that the Chiefs have, I mean, they add that consistent downfield element to their passing arsenal. And Xavier Worthy scored a deep ball touchdown last year playing against the Chargers in week 4. Was able to get past that secondary of theirs. If they're able to consistently have some sort of a threat downfield for the first time since Tyreek Hill, and the Chiefs are able to just kind of, concoct something up with Andy Reid at the controls, I mean, this could be nearly game over. I'm not talking about this game. I think it's going to be a really good game. But I think for the rest of the league, I think Patrick Mahomes is coming back for a vengeance. And, the haircut chopped it. I think they're going to chop a lot of defenses up this year.
Well, the Chargers have played well, the Chiefs hard and tough in years past. They've also beaten them. But so we're currently south of the equator. Let's go north of the equator, way north in NFC North territory, because ESPN's Monday Night Football, Chase, they're also kicking off their 20th season and its 56th season overall with a classic NFC North matchup. J.J. McCarthy makes his long-awaited NFL debut in his hometown as Justin Jefferson, and the Minnesota Vikings head to the Windy City to take on McCarthy's draft classmate and last year's number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, and the Chicago Bears with Ben Johnson making his head coaching debut. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, and Laura Rutledge will have the call from Soldier Field in Chicago at 8:15 Eastern on ESPN and ABC. Coverage on ESPN begins at 6 Eastern with Monday Night Countdown presented by ESPN Bet. Westwood One's coverage gets underway at 7 Eastern with Kevin Harlan, Kurt Warner, and Rich Eisen. By the way, how great is it that Rich Eisen's now with ESPN Radio and his show's now on ESPN Radio noon to 3?
It's good to see, good to see him back in a familiar spot.
And the more things change, the more they stay the same. Rich Eisen back to ESPN, the NBA back to NBC, and so you can talk about the world is changing, but at the same time, it's almost like we're going back to the future a little bit with all these TV and sports media moves that keep happening. So, but nonetheless, this matchup on Monday Night Football, Minnesota and Chicago. When I first saw this on schedule release day back in May, I was like, not really a huge fan of it, but I'm kind of into it now. You give me an NFC North matchup in Chicago week 1, I'm in. When was the last time Chicago hosted a Monday night or Sunday night football game? I think it was like 2020 or something.
I think
one actually.
And I think the last time they hosted a Monday night game was against the Minnesota Vikings. So, this is something that we've seen before. And they also played a Sunday night football game in Chicago in 2018. But nonetheless, Ben Johnson against the Brian Flores defense, we've seen it before. And there have been some very exciting results. Obviously, last year, week 18, Ben Johnson and Detroit really got the best. But I'm excited to see Ben Johnson, the head coach, man. You're looking at what, he's held Caleb Williams very accountable this entire offseason. It's looked a little bit different. You've got guys on the outside and DJ Moore and Roma Dunze, DeAndre Swift in the backfield who used to play for the Detroit Lions. They, again, like you mentioned, went up and they retooled their offensive line, getting Joe Thuney over via trade. So, and their defense at one point last season was very good. I think their defense is a pretty good defense overall. So, I think my big question is, how is J.J. McCarthy going to handle the Chicago Bears front seven? And can he be an accurate passer of the football and find Justin Jefferson all the way on the outside? Because we didn't really see that quick game from him at Michigan. We saw more of a drop back passing. It was set up by the run. Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, who's going to be able to get the run going? Can they get the run going? It's going to be the play callers, man. I think the play callers are going to have a really big impact in this one. And what players on the field can really make, the vision of these coordinators come true and get a victory.
See, coaching matters in the NFL, and it's going to matter in this game Monday night, because what you have is you have Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips. By the way, Wes Phillips, the son of Wade Phillips, longtime head coach, longtime coach in the NFL. You have those guys with the Vikings, and then you have Ben Johnson, the offensive mind of the Bears, against Brian Flores of the Vikings. But what's interesting to me is, and this hasn't been talked about a lot, but I think the Bears nailed their defensive coordinator hire, Dennis Allen, who I have always been a proponent of when it comes to defense. Because his Saints defenses, yes, they were bad at one point, but they were really good when they needed to be, particularly early on in Sean Payton's time there, Drew Brees, when they won the Super Bowl in 2009. He was the secondaries coach. And mind you, there's the Saints secondary is the reason why they won the Super Bowl with Tracy Porter. And by the way, the reason why they even went to the Super Bowl, if you know, you know. So Minnesota fans probably don't like remembering that. But what I'm saying is, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Coaching is going to matter in this game. The amount of coaching matchups in this game, the chess matches, they're going to be on the field. I think if you're J.J. McCarthy, one man that I think you are going to see a lot of Monday night is T.J. Hawkinson. Why? Because if you can't get the ball to Justin Jefferson on the outside, you don't have Jordan Addison in the slot. You're going to have to rely on T.J. Hawkinson to move the chains. But the Vikings' offensive line, I think, is good. I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. I know they lost Dalton Risner to the Bengals this offseason, but they're going to get Christian Darrisaw back. They signed Will Freeze to a massive contract, so that's going to help. I just think that the Minnesota Vikings, I know J.J. McCarthy's like the biggest unknown variable in the NFL, but to me, he's in an unbelievably good situation with Kevin O'Connell and that offense, and the defense is going to complement them. Do not expect this game, to be high scoring. It's going to be your classic black and blue NFC North game on Monday Night Football. That's going to be, it's going to be a laboring game. You can have your best plays if you're Kevin O'Connell and Ben Johnson. Let's be honest. the team that wins the battle in the trenches and the team that can run the ball the best when it counts, I'm talking like in second and short, third and short situations, and in the red zone, goal to go, that's the team that's going to win this game. I mean, look, this is what we love about the NFL, right? You can take any matchup like Minnesota-Chicago. How many people are excited about this game? I don't know. But we are, because there are things in this game, there are storylines in this game, there are matchups in this game that are really fun to talk about, if you ask me.
Yeah, you got, like you mentioned, coaching matchups, younger players, simplified old school football. Line them up. Let's get the pads cracking at the line of scrimmage. It should be fun. But, Alex, there's another NFC North matchup, which is really catching a lot of eyes and could result in more points.
Funny you mentioned that, because the NFL on CBS kicking off its 66th season with their first doubleheader of the 2025 season. First, it's Aaron Rodgers returning to the Meadowlands, leading the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Big Apple to take on their former quarterback Justin Fields. The New York Jets, our good friend Ian Eagle, J.J. Watt, and Evan Washburn will have the call from MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey at 1 Eastern. Then, as you mentioned, Chase, my favorite game of the week. It's an NFC North showdown in the Holy Grail of NFL stadiums. Jared Goff and the reigning two-time NFC North champion Detroit Lions take on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson will have the call from Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin at 4:25 Eastern. Coverage on CBS begins at noon Eastern with the NFL Today, presented by Jeep, live from Lambeau Field. How about that, Chase? NFL Today taking their show on the road.
They're going to do it a couple times this year, I would assume. This is going to be some fun stuff.
Yeah,
and
there's a week
this matchup, and this matchup overall, last year when they played in Lambeau Week 9, rainy conditions, Detroit really controlled the game. With that's football right there. That's what you think about old school classic football.
Big and the Lions, in the NFL.
Yeah, man. I mean, and they really were able to control that game, running the football. They were able to force some turnovers off of Green Bay. But once they were able to play in Ford Field, I mean, you saw a shootout. You saw something that came down to the wire. You saw Dan Campbell rolling the dice like he was in Vegas the whole time. And he always is. But, you know.
5 on fourth down in that game. And if you watch quarterback Jared Goff and Dan Campbell talk about how aggressive they were going to be in that game. I mean, when was the last time you saw like a team that had 4th and 1 where they could have kicked like a 36-yard field goal, whatever it was at the time, 37, but they decided to go for it because if they get it, they can run the clock out. Who thinks about that?
Oh, obviously them. It's just crazy to think, but you don't realize it until it happens. And it happened in Detroit. And they're coming off a 15-2 season, and the Packers won 10-plus games last year. Detroit has pretty much owned Green Bay over the last few years.
6-2, and Dan Campbell's 4 years as head coach.
Yeah. So the Packers are going to have their backs against the wall, knowing what's at stake, that they have a divisional opponent coming into their house, and then they have a short week against Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. With their boat, they're like, they can't start off 0-2. They got to be able to at least win one of these games, and the bigger one of the two being the divisional opponent. And in Detroit's eyes, Detroit plays divisional opponents back-to-back weeks, as you've got that huge road game, as we're mentioning. And then the next week, they play against Ben Johnson in his return to Detroit. So, obviously, the most important game is the one that's in front of them. But, man, I'm going to tell you this. I really think that this Micah Parsons addition just added even 2 or 3 new elements to this Packers defense, how the Lions try to attack. I think they're still going to be very aggressive with running the football with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles. And then, I really think that, Laporta, St. Brown, Jamison Williams, I think, is going to be involved in a major play on Sunday down the field. I'm excited to see if the Lions' offensive line can hold up that long for Jared Goff to try to complete, because I think the Lions' receivers can really take advantage against these Packers corners.
You even mentioned that this is the first game with new offensive coordinator John Morton and new defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard. I mean, that is a major storyline going into this game. But I think what's interesting is watch that center right guard crease. That's where Micah Parsons is going to be lining up, because he knows that's the Lions' weakness right now. I mean, he's going to be coming. Now, hopefully he plays. He is dealing with a back injury right now. Maybe that's why he was lying on the medical table, but we'll never know if that's actually the truth or not. But this is a needle mover for the Packers. When you get a guy like Micah Parsons, like I've heard comparisons to this is what it was like when they got Reggie White back in the 90s from Philadelphia. They won a Super Bowl eventually. But you get a guy like Micah Parsons. Now you see up front, you have guys like Rashawn Gary, and you have guys like Luke Van Ness. You have guys like Isaiah McDuffie and Quay Walker. And then your secondary still have Xavier McKinney. Yeah, you lost Jair Alexander. But what you do with a guy like Micah Parsons is you make life easier for your secondary because they don't have to hold up in coverage that long because you can rush the passer. So this is going to be, I mean, you trade for a guy in his first game. You're playing the two-time defending NFC North champions. I mean, this has so much riding on it in this game. And this is not the first time, this is not the only time we'll see these two teams, obviously, during the season. We'll see them again on Thanksgiving. We could also see them for a third time. You know, we didn't mention our full playoff predictions, like who we think is going to go to the Super Bowl. We'll get to that towards the end of the show. But this may not be this may be the first of maybe 3 times we see them this season.
Could be. You know, I think it's a great matchup on paper. They always produce a very good matchup on the field, and I'm excited to see what they do on Sunday.
Can I ask this real quick? And I did look this up. Have the Lions ever won 4 straight games at Lambeau Field? Because that's what they're going for on Sunday.
I honestly don't think they have. But again, there was a time period where we were not born and we were not even thought of. So, you know, it could be. We have to get deep in the history books for that one.
This is what Dan Campbell has done. I mean, they also led at halftime in the Monday night game, week 2 of 21 at Lambeau Field. So I'll tell you this, the Lions aren't intimidated by the Packers. And if the Packers can't win this game, and knowing they have a short week with Washington rolling in, I mean, it's going to be a rough few days in Titletown. But real quick with the Steelers and Jets, J.J. Watt making his CBS game broadcast debut. I'm excited for that. I mean, his brother TJ got paid this offseason. I think this game is important for both teams. I think the winner of this game will kind of set the tone for their season. If the Steelers win, it's like, well, hey, Aaron Rodgers can still sling it. But if the Jets win, it's like, maybe they have something here. I think Aaron Glenn has done a good job of kind of resetting the culture, resetting the locker room. They may not have a lot of talent, but they have guys, I think, that can mesh together. 2 in particular, we've seen up I-71 in Columbus.
Yeah, I think this is a Freaky Friday game, as both of these quarterbacks were on opposite teams this past year. And, you know, they've got a lot to prove to their rosters. So it's going to be interesting to see how Aaron Rodgers holds up behind that Steelers offensive line with the Jets pass rush and secondary. And if Justin Fields can, you know, find some comfortability and the Jets can find a run game against this tough Steelers defense, how's that chess match going to look out? I think this is going to be a game that's very low scoring, but, you know, for the old school football fan, should be a fun one.
My biggest question is, who is that pass catcher for the Steelers that emerges as their number 1 wide receiver? Because it didn't happen with Pickens. Now you're relying on DK Metcalf, who I think could be, but is he going to be? I think that's a big question.
I think so.
To find out. But that's a good one right there. Okay, so Fox has the single header this week, but it's a dandy. The Giants and Commanders, NFC East showdown, Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi with the call. 1 Eastern from Northwest Stadium, Landover, Maryland. Coverage on Fox starts at 11 a.m. Eastern with Fox NFL Kickoff delivered by Little Caesars and continues at noon Eastern with Fox NFL Sunday. You know what's so interesting to me, Chase, real quick? This is kind of a media note. Think about this. So Jimmy Johnson, Hubie Brown, Lee Corso, just a few names that have retired in recent seasons. I mean, it's crazy to think about, isn't it?
It really is. Those are guys that you grew up on every single Saturday and Sunday and other games around the NBA, man. I mean, this is an adjustment.
It is an adjustment, but I got to give props to ESPN in the way they send Lee Corso out in style. And here's the thing, Chase. It wasn't overboard. It was simple, and it was perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
Major props. Major props to ESPN for a terrific College game day. By the way, Fox televising Lee Corso's headgear pick. See, networks can get along.
They have.
We've been on other networks on the show.
That's a fact.
It is a fact. Okay. So Giants Commanders. I'm getting a 2022 Bengals vibe for the Commanders right now.
Slow start.
Here's my reasoning. Yes, you're right, slow start, because they have so much momentum right now organizationally. They're coming off a terrific season. They went to the NFC Championship. You know, Chris Collinsworth said it best in the open to their playoff game against Tampa Bay. A once wounded franchise now led by Jaden Daniels, new ownership, Dan Quinn. And you also bring in other veterans like Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz. And on defense, you have Frankie Louvu as well. But, I mean, new stadium, going back to, old side of RFK, draft coming in 27. But then Terry McLaurin not only holds out during training camp or holds in, he was also injured. So I wonder if that, with all this momentum, can derail all these expectations the Commanders have. And here's the thing. Do not overlook the New York Giants.
Don't overlook them, but their pass rush in particular, if they can somehow try to enclose Jaden Daniels, which is easier said than done, that pass rush is tough, especially if they're able to keep him in the pocket, collapse it, and a guy named Dexter Lawrence is able to end things. I mean, this is going to be the interesting thing where, obviously most football games, who can win the line of scrimmage, but if the Giants can really collapse the pocket and enclose Jaden Daniels in a box, and they're going to say, guess what? Throw through a phone booth. It's going to make it tough.
That's how you win. And if Daniels does win that way, tip your cap and move on. And Jaden Daniels is for real, which we know he is, but then he's even taken another step forward. Yeah. Do you know Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson were the only two receivers last year on the same team to have both 90 receptions?
It's insane to think about.
Wan'Dale Robinson. You don't even know who that guy is if you don't cover the Giants or know about other teams like we do.
Yeah.
But and here's the thing. If Russell Wilson can connect with Malik Neighbors and Robinson downfield, that Commander secondary is not great. This is a trap game of epic proportions.
And let me say this, Alex. Russell Wilson usually starts off seasons pretty well. I mean, I know if 2020 was a few years back, and it was obviously a different scenario with a way better roster in Seattle. But do you remember Russell Wilson's first 6 or 7 games of the season where he just was playing nuclear football and was throwing some nuclear footballs, through the air, and had over 20 touchdown passes in the first 7 games of the season?
Well, in 2019, through the first half of the regular season, he had 22 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had my vote for MVP. I mean, that's how good he was playing. And you join the New York Giants. I know their coaching staff is under a lot of heat right now, Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka. But at the same time, I'm telling you, this is going to be the Giants are not a pushover this year. They're not. You can question what they're doing at quarterback. You got Russell Wilson starting, a 13-year veteran, or he's going to what now, his 14th season. You could be in worse situations. Okay, Bengals Browns Sunday 1:00. Kevin Kugler, Daryl Moose Johnston, Allison Williams on the call. Chase, what are you most nervous about? I feel like that's the poignant question going into this game.
I'm most nervous about if the Bengals don't get a run game going / win the line of scrimmage on offense. That's my biggest concern. Because if they do that, if the Bengals are able to do that and open up the run game, I think Cleveland's dead.
My biggest worry is actually on the opposite side. If Jerome Ford gets going, I'm going to be sweating a little bit more than I'd like to on Sunday afternoon.
I agree. I agree with that.
And I ask this question because, look, obviously we're worried about Myles Garrett. Who wouldn't be? Okay, he's gonna get a sack or two potentially. He's that great. But if you can neutralize him, if you can run the ball, if you can take him out of the game like they did last year in Cleveland, it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be effective. And you've got to score when you have the opportunity to do so.
Yep, exactly. Cleveland's going to try to make this game very murky. Cincinnati's going to find their stars. They got to be able to play efficient offense. and not give up anything stupid on defense. And I think the Bengals could win this football game. It's going to be a hard-fought one for sure.
All right, before we get to our Week 1 picks, do you want to reveal your playoff picks and your Super Bowl 60 matchup and winner?
Super Bowl 60 matchup and winner. I've got the Eagles going back-to-back. I think they take down the Bengals.
Ooh.
I think the Eagles are that good. I think
Okay.
the Bengals are going to get back on track.
So you're back-to-back. I'm back-to-back with my Super Bowl pick. I'm running it back. Lions-Bills, with the Bills winning Super Bowl 60. Now, my NFC Championship is Green Bay, Detroit in the Motor City.
Ooh, well, there
Can
you
you
go.
imagine
Nice
that?
foreshadow. Yeah, that's an insane foreshadow.
Legacies would be on the line. Bragging rights would be on the line for both fan bases. Oh, and by the way, I have the Chiefs playing the Bengals Sunday at 6:30 on CBS in the divisional round. Can you imagine that?
That'll be a great one for sure. I'm excited for these NFL Week 1 picks, man. Let's get to it.
I tell you. Okay, we'll start from the top. By the way, we do read the NFL game capsules, courtesy of NFL Communications. We are very appreciative of the great work that they do. So, we start at the top. We got the Cowboys and the Eagles, which we previewed earlier in this show. Chase, what do you got?
I've got Philly winning. They're the overall better team. Cowboys defense is a gaping wound. Stars are going to feast for the Eagles.
I got a friend to help me make this pick. Hey, Steve Miller, you want to fly like an eagle? The answer is yes.
There you go.
Eagles 34, Cowboys 20. All right, Chiefs, Chargers. I struggle with this one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But I got the Chiefs winning. Mahomes' legs and Andy Reid's late-game coaching will prevail.
That's a great point, and I think you're absolutely right. Now, Jim Harbaugh is a really good head coach. We have to admit that, even though we know who we root for. I am going to go with the Chiefs, and I'm going to go 27-20.
All right.
So a good one down in Brazil Friday night. First game on Sunday. We haven't talked about this one yet, but it's a good one in the NFC South. Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, Megan Levy with the call at 1 o'clock on Fox. This is a good one, and it's going to be a tone setter in a division that could be a two-horse race between these two teams.
I got Tampa winning this one. I think they got too much skill on offense. And Michael Penix Jr., I like what he was able to do at the end of last season. There's still some question marks that are there, and I think Baker Mayfield and the Bucs rallied troops.
I think you're right. Emeka Egbuka was just, I think they stealed the first round of the draft. I drafted him in the middle rounds for one of my fantasy football teams. He could have 80 catches this season. I'm not exaggerating. Tampa Bay 34-27 in an offensive fireworks show in Atlanta. Okay, Bengals, Browns. Chase, the Bengals injury report was void of any injuries outside of Cedric Johnson and Dejon Anthony on injured reserve. I think all things considered, they're going to go up there and at least put the slow start narrative aside for now.
Yep, I agree. I think the run game gets activated to open up the pass, and I think the defense makes just enough plays for the Bengals to win.
27-13 is my pick, which was the same score as the Week 1 game in 2005, the Bengals winning that game in Cleveland. All right, Dolphins, Colts, 1 o'clock CBS, Andrew Catalon, Charles Davis, Jason McCourty. That's a good broadcast trio right there. And A.J. Ross. It's the Colts' first game since Jim Irsay passed away in May. The Colts won Super Bowl 41 in Miami. I think it's going to be too emotional of a game for the Colts to lose and the Dolphins to win on the road. The Dolphins have had a mess of a training camp in preseason. I'm taking the Colts 28-17.
I had an interesting time with this one. I could see it go either way. I think the Dolphins could have the ability to run the football on the Colts, even though, it could be, a murky battle, but Daniel Jones is the opposing quarterback. So I'm going with the Dolphins.
Wow. Okay, so we disagree there. All right.
Yep.
A matchup of two former number one overall picks at quarterback, Panthers and Jaguars, 1 o'clock on Fox. Chris Myers, Mark Schlereth, Jen Hale on the Colts. Also the NFL debut for Travis Hunter, who won the Heisman Trophy last year. I'm going Jacksonville. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'll go 21-17.
I'm going Jags in this one. Liam Cohen, first game as a Jags head coach, got too much skill work on the offensive side, and I think the pass rush is going to get after Bryce Young.
All right, the Josh McDaniels Bowl is up next. The Raiders and the Patriots. Spiro Diaz, Adam Archuleta, Didi Kinkabwala with the call, 1 o'clock on CBS. This one is interesting. The Raiders, to me, I wouldn't take them lightly.
No, not at all. I could see the Raiders walking in there and winning this game with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, but I think the Patriots offense has a nice reset with Josh McDaniels being his third time there. And I think the hungry defense under Mike Vrabel is going to make enough plays to win this football game.
I agree with that. I'm going to take the Patriots in a lower scoring game. I'll go 20-17. They get the win. All right. Cardinals and Saints, 1 o'clock on CBS. Tom McCarthy, Ross Tucker, Logan Ryan, and Tiffany Blackman on the call. I'll say this. You're playing at home if you're the Saints. I know very low expectations for them. The Cardinals, I mean, once again, we're talking about them as a sleeper. I have them winning this game 27-20, but I don't know if I'm as in them as others are.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals had they had a pretty decent season last year. Obviously didn't make the playoffs or win a division, but they were right there in the last couple of weeks. I think there's too much dysfunction from New Orleans, so I'm going to go with the Cardinals. All
right, the Steelers and the Jets, we talked about this earlier. This one's going to be an interesting game. I'm going to take the Steelers 24-17.
Aaron Rodgers has revenge on his mind, even though I think the Jets should have revenge on their mind against Aaron Rodgers. But I think the Steelers' pass rush is too strong. Steelers are going to win this game.
All right, the Giants and Commanders. You know I'm smelling? In addition to this ground beef that's waiting for me.
Oh, boy.
Upset pick of the week. The G-Men take down the Commanders 23-20.
Wow. All right. I'm going to go with Washington, but it's because Jaden Daniels makes just enough plays with his legs, and I think the defense stands tall for a big play toward the end.
All right, let's go to number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, making his debut as the Titans head to Denver to take on the Broncos. Adam Amin, Mark Sanchez, Christina Pink with the call, 4:05 on Fox. I think this game gets out of hand real quickly. Give me Denver 31-14.
Yeah, the Broncos' pass rush and secondary is going to overwhelm a guy in Cam Ward who really doesn't seem like he gets overwhelmed, plays pretty nonchalant, and I think Cam Ward's on track for a very good career. I just don't think he's on track for a great start, especially against Sean Payton on the other side running that offense for the Broncos. Give me Denver.
Well, not to mention Vance Joseph at defensive coordinator who knows a thing or two. 49ers and Seahawks also 4:05 on Fox. Joe Davis, Greg Olsen, Pam Oliver with the call. Great NFC West rivalry. I could see this game going either way. I'm taking the Niners because they have won 3 straight games in Seattle, 28-24.
Yeah, I could see it going either way too. Divisional matchup, new quarterback Sam Darnold for the Seahawks. Interesting and exciting time. Yeah, I've got the Niners winning this one, though. I think Kyle Shanahan and company, they will come out with a vengeance.
All right, we got the Lions and the Packers up next. Obviously, the big NFC North showdown. I'm going Green Bay because I think Micah Parsons is going to play. I think the two teams will split in the regular season. I'm taking the Packers 27-20, but I don't think Detroit. I think the panic meter is going to be low because this game could go either way.
I'm taking Detroit. I think the Lions receivers are going to attack the Packers secondary violently, and I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to really be released in an all-purpose way that we've never seen before.
Wow. Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, he's wearing number 0 this season, so that's going to be interesting to see. Texans and Rams, Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins with the call, 4:25 CBS. I am going to pick the Texans in this game. And I'm going to go 27-20. They get the win. I am very concerned about Matthew Stafford, and the Rams' offensive line is not the greatest. And that Texans pass rushing tandem is good.
Yeah. Texans are too quick on defense for the older Matthew Stafford, and I think they're going to have an explosive enough offense to take down the Rams. Give me Houston.
All right, let's move to Sunday Night Football. Ravens and Bills. I think whoever has the ball last wins. I'm taking Buffalo 31-28.
Yeah, that's literally what I have written down. I think the Bills have the ball last, and I think it's going to be an interesting question to see how the Ravens' kicking game is, especially early on, without Justin Tucker. I know last year wasn't a great year for him and everything else in many ways, but I think the Bills have the ball last and win the football game. Give me Buffalo.
Tyler Bass hits from 32 as time expires. You know a thing about the number 32, Chase. We got the Vikings and the Bears on Monday Night Football, your classic NFC North rivalry. I'm going to take the Vikings 20-17. I think they make a late defensive stand in the fourth quarter to seal the win.
I truly think J.J. McCarthy is going to have some game one jitters, and I think Ben Johnson has something to prove. Give me the Bears.
You know the Bears have a 29-year-old offensive coordinator in Declan Doyle. That's another unknown variable that we have in this game. Okay, so we're going to end every show that we do. We're doing this show on Wednesday night because week one is a game because it's week one. But normally we're going to do our preview show. We're going to drop that on Friday after Thursday Night Football. But don't worry, we'll still touch on Thursday Night Football every week. So what we're going to do is something called By the End of the Weekend. And if you watch Colin Cowherd's show, which he's my all-time favorite sports talk show host, he does a segment with Jason McIntyre, his co-host, every week called Tomorrow's Headlines Today, where they basically predict what the headlines will be in the newspapers by the end of the weekend, after the weekend of the NFL, that is. So, Chase, by the end of the weekend, what are you going to be thinking about the most?
We're each going to give one, okay?
All right.
By the end of the weekend, I think there is going to be true questions about the Los Angeles Rams.
Thank you.
And Matthew Stafford.
I will play.
I'm not confident. I'm not confident right now.
There's a reason that I have them not making the playoffs, and I did at various times, but there's something about them. I also think Cooper Kupp is a bigger loss than people want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He was such a security blanket for him. I also think Tyler Higbee is not what he once was. Now, they did draft Terrence Ferguson, who I think is going to be a very good player. But I'm going to play off of that. By the end of the weekend, we will be talking about how Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson deserve their flowers. Did you know, Chase, that Anderson and Hunter are one of two pairs of teammates, each with 11-plus sacks last season?
Wow.
And I'm trying to remember who the other one was. I think it may have been the Vikings with Van Ginkel and Grenard. Let me confirm.
That's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good guess. I'll tell you that. But
I just feel like,
but
yes,
man,
they were.
But let me just say, I mean, like that Texans and Rams game is that secondary 425 game. It's crazy how that's literally what we both picked and talked about. We did not have prior conversation about this.
We did not. But again, it's one of the more intriguing matchups of the week. I want to see what the Texans look like offensively with Nick Cali at offensive coordinator. I think C.J. Stroud's due for a bounce-back season. Last year, and Noah Eagle talked about this with us, that wasn't his fault. They had injuries at receiver. Bobby Slowick was not who we thought he was going to be. I think they had a good reset this offseason. They were very active this offseason in the draft, and I think their receiving core is better than it was last season. But that Rams, and here's the thing, Stafford and Adams, do you trust their timing right now? I don't.
There's no timing at this moment from what we know.
Exactly. Okay, so here's what Chase and I are going to do. We will be back Sunday night live, potentially. Don't bank on this.
Live.
We are going live. Okay, we are going live. Okay, we're going live after Ravens-Bills. That's going to be the focus. We'll also go back towards Cowboys, Eagles, and Chiefs, Chargers, and all the games from Sunday. And then we'll look ahead to week 2, which has a good Sunday night football game, one that I am very, very intrigued by.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. But to wrap things up, this is your NFL Week 1 preview on the Waiting All Day for SNF podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great football watching this long weekend. We're so